So I don't want to necessarily call this beef, but um, there was a Sports Illustrated article that came out, and it was talking about the young man from Howard, and this started conversation in the Twitter sphere about should he stay, should he go, what all of that is entail. And for those who, I'm going to go ahead and get off of here because you can go ahead and read that on Sports Illustrated. But the gist of it was, where we are in today's sports with NIL and transfer portal. Like, should he stay? Should he go? What can Howard do to keep him? And my thought process was, it ain't that hard for Howard to keep him. He already getting the exposure because he's on a Sports Illustrated cover. I'm sure Howard can figure out some kind of way to get him some money. So I don't think it would be as hard as people want to make it for him to stay. But on the flip side, if he does leave, that's not an indictment on Howard and it's not an indictment on him and his character, none of that. So let's eliminate all those discussions right off the bat. That's just egos. That's just our ego in a situation. We're gonna feel some type of way if he leaves. He didn't leave you for another chick. He left you for a different path. That's it. He didn't leave you behind, or I shouldn't even say leave. He went to a different path. It's not. It's not the same as him going from a Florida State to a Florida. That being said, friend of the
If he
show, and go ahead.
if he left, where would he go?
I mean, who knows? I'm sure there's some teams in the Northeast and maybe even in the Carolinas that want him on their team. But friend of the show and fellow content creator podcaster Malcolm Banks, um, listed a few teams today on his Twitter of where he can go. And because Malcolm is a good dude and he's from the Bay Area, I didn't tell him to go to hell. But when he put Duke up there, Syracuse, I'm not too much worried about. But when he put Duke up there, it touched something in my soul to make me want to say something. But I was like, you know what? I can turn my anger into a positive and I can donate to Howard's NIL collective. That way, I've done my part to make sure he don't end up at Duke. And yes, this whole segment was about me being petty.
I was just about to say that because that's what it sounds like. So the young man has, the word they used was blossom into a young star, right?
He
Um,
is special.
we talked about this on Tuesday, if you recall. What would drive a player to leave a particular program or school, um, or what would drive them to stay? Is money the key motivator here? Because if it is, then Howard doesn't have a chance. If that's the key, you know what I'm saying? Like, just being realistic. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like to be realistic about things, but I also use different perspectives. To understand perception, you got to change your perspective. And if he is, you know, chasing the bag, or he comes from an impoverished family, I don't know necessarily know his background and everything. and he has the opportunity to change the lives of his family right now while still pursuing an NBA career, it's kind of hard. And Duke has been known to put players in the NBA. They're like the basketball version of Alabama. You go to Duke, you got a great chance of making it to the league, or at least competing for a roster spot somewhere. You'll make it to the G League. Like, the sky's the limit. So I think we have to find out what motivates them.
And again, like I said, this started out as me being petty because I was perfectly okay with ignoring this conversation. But in the grand scheme of everything, it's a conversation that needs to happen. Like, all jokes aside, I know Howard, of all the HBCUs, have a affluent alumni base. Do I think money is an issue? I don't. Based on what people have told me, I think they could figure something out money-wise. I think the issue.
Call Kamala.
I think the issue. I think the issue is more on the conference, and I'll get to why I had to apologize to them today. The onus is more on the conference than it is on Howard, and the reason I say that is because the MEAC has had impactful games that people have not seen. South Carolina State is number 2 in the conference, but when they played Norfolk, we didn't see that game. That game wasn't on TV. That's an issue. Now, to be fair, the women, Howard and Norfolk State, played today on ESPNU. Do I like that it's one of the extra subscription channels? No, but it was on ESPNU, and you could also, if you have ESPN, Disney Plus, and all of that, you could have seen it on ESPN Plus.
It would have been included in your package,
right? So that option was there, and that's a win. So again, I apologize to MEAC because, and again, it's not solely on the MEAC, but the MEAC being a ESPN partner goes hand in hand. So these games can't, especially when you have a star, every chance you get, he got to be on TV because it helps the entire conference. It helps Norfolk State, it helps NCCU, it helps everybody. He's got to be on TV. So it is a story that needs to be talked about.
This and here lies where we get into the business aspect school-wise, right? Because we look at things as investments. All players are an investment to the team and to the organization. So if you got the money to keep him, in the same breath, you should be talking to these media outlets trying to promote him. Because in promoting him, you are promoting your school, which will get you more opportunities to be on TV. And what does that do for the future? More players want to go there because this shows them that you have a commitment to the players. Like I said, it's an investment. So you have to invest. But in order to do that, you have to have people that want to be a part of it.
The MEAC is positioned. They're positioned very well, right? So you have this young kid at Howard in basketball. You have this team in Norfolk State that is playing very well. You have South Carolina State that is also playing very well. On the basketball side, you have Golds. And then on the football side, you got Michael Vick. You got Deshaun Jackson. You have storylines, investment items that an ESPN can say, oh, we can sink our teeth into this. Now, each one of these entities have to do their part. They have to make compelling stories, compelling games. I'm not saying this will happen, But if Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson go out there next season and be 0-5 in the first 3 games of the season, 0-6 in the first 3 games of the season, that's not going to be a good look. But if they give them something to work with, it's going to be good for the entire conference. So